Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Poly Weekly News. I'm your host, as always, David Danto, and we've got a great show for you this week because I have two of the most intelligent, informed. Wait a minute, they couldn't come? All right, so never mind. So instead, we have we have my
I was
good
wondering
friend.
who's going to be here.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
We have my good friends Dave Michels, who is an industry analyst with an organization he calls Talking Points. And we have Evan Kirstal, who is an industry analyst who's an industry analyst. He's like the number one in every category and every listing. So I don't even know which one you want to list, whether it's your health company or your tech company or B2B company. We'll go through that. I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves, and we're going to have a nice round robin conversation this week about what's going on in UC Media, about the show they do, about what's going on in tech. This should be exciting and fun, and hopefully not too many bad fireworks that get any of us in trouble. So, Mr. Michels, why don't you start? Give everybody the 1 or 2 minutes about who you are and what you do.
Oh, I'm a professional attendee. Actually, I've been using attendee as my title lately because I've just been going to so many conferences. I cover.
Okay, wait. So pause there for a second because I was looking at some of the analysts online yesterday when I got out of where I was, and they're talking about how they're having this great conference in this great place at the Grand Wailea, which is on Maui. I mean, who gets that coveted invitation for free to Maui? I mean, why aren't you guys in Maui right now?
That's what I want to know. What the
Yeah,
hell's going on?
exactly. I'm sorry to interrupt, David. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm a professional attendee. I go to a lot of conferences because I cover the broader enterprise communication space. So the calling, meetings, messaging, contact center, and I don't know, just all kinds of offshoots seem to be coming out of that. I also run the Innovation Showcase at Enterprise Connect, which we try to profile startup companies. This year's theme is going to be collaboration reimagined. And so we're looking for some companies that are rethinking the whole thing.
Yeah, I saw our friend Mr. Leposky is with a new startup, Mobius. I should make sure that he gets in touch with you over that. That might be an interesting thing to do. So, okay, terrific. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Evan, describe yourself while standing on one foot.
Okay, I am a chief twit. When it
Now,
comes
we know
to
you're
all
not the
things,
chief twit. We know who the chief twit is. We'll talk about him later.
The chief twit. Trust me, he is.
Assistant to the chief twit when it comes to all things enterprise communications and collaboration, and frankly, enterprise tech and anything that interests me on Twitter. So, yeah, I essentially spend 12 hours a day on social media. I'm sorry.
Only 12?
Well, yeah, no, it's 16, to be frank. I was embarrassed to say the true number. But, I'm trying to follow in Dave Michels' footsteps and pick up the mantle on enterprise communications when he heads to that great cloud in the sky one day.
Hopefully that's a very long time away. So before we get started, I'd love to recap the last quarter or so of what's gone on in enterprise communications and unified communications. But before we get started, the two of you do a podcast on I don't know if it's weekly or monthly or whenever you feel like it, Lee. But tell us a little bit about that. Dave, what was the genesis of that?
It's called Talking Heads, and you can subscribe to it on most podcast apps. Heads with a Z, and it's supposed to be and has been for years 2 episodes a month. It has. I think we've failed 2 months in a row just because it's just all of a sudden gotten so busy. But what we tell people is that the podcast features brilliant conversation with the most interesting people in the industry, and we have great guests. And so it's
and let's talk about the guest, Dave, because we've had really who's who in the industry, big names from every vendor provider out there. I can think of a few like who comes top of mind? Eric Wan from Zoom.
Eric Wan, Zoom. Jeff Lawson, Twilio. Rowan Trollope from Five9.
Heavy hitters. Yes.
Tony Bates from Genesis. So yeah, we try to go for the C-suites, and we've been pretty successful. There's been one guest that we've been unable to get. A guy from the guy heading up Poly. We had him confirmed and booked, and then he canceled last minute, and then they announced being acquired by HP. So I don't know if we accept that as an excuse, but we're trying to get Dave back on.
Are we still allowed to have Michael Dell on from Dell, or is that
no?
Okay,
Never heard of it.
Very good. but we passed 100 episodes, probably 120, I don't know, something. So this thing has a life of its own.
What's the short version of if somebody wanted to subscribe? They just look up the name on one of their podcast apps, or is there a URL?
It's free, and there's no commercials. It's completely edutainment. It's great.
Well, you know what they say about when the product is free.
Well, they're wrong.
Okay.
It means we're spending a lot of money with very poor ROI.
Yeah.
I know. We enjoy it.
I know I've listened to a number of the episodes and gotten a lot out of it, especially when you're talking to a friend of mine. Well,
we do it for you, David.
I would be on every one once I was on one. Then I would feel more loyalty to it. But other than that, we can agree that it's certainly worth everybody's time, and they should look it up. So I guess let's talk about the last month, 2 months, 3 months in this weird industry.
It's all a blur. You can say any time frame you want. It's all a blur.
Yeah, I would start with the poly HP thing because that's important to me, and we all know the stories that are coming out of that and the richness of there. And
if you're going to start, if you just go back a few months, you can start with Evan's wedding.
Well, the Evans wedding that I unfortunately missed because I wasn't feeling well at the time, but I was invited to, and I wish I was there, and it looked beautiful. Overseeing,
I went there, and I was a participant, and I was there, and I wasn't feeling well at the time because it's just the whole thing was just disgusting. But no, it was a fantastic event, and that really was the kickoff of the travel season. I mean, when was that, Evan? That was, I don't remember.
June. That was early June. So since then, you've been barely around. Every time I look up, you're in some strange foreign destination, whether it's New Jersey or Morocco or Asia, or where have you been? Because I can't keep track.
It's been a bit crazy, but what I told Evan last time we were talking about this was that I don't know if the pandemic ended or not, but fear of the pandemic certainly ended.
Yes.
And all of a sudden there's a mass rush to the airport. Both Evan and I have moved in the past few months, and so you
not in together. We're not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah,
but it's just been a complete blur. I moved in September, and I think I've spent maybe 2 weeks in the new place, and so it's just been back-to-back travel. It's just been
and you're moved from a West Coaster to being an East Coaster here, and so now all the three of us are on the East Coast.
Yeah, but not really. I was from Colorado, so we had no coast, zero coast.
But the high mountain and the red rocks and the pink Jeeps. That's Arizona. Anyway,
wildfires.
All right, so let's talk about what some of the things that have happened. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I guess the first announcement that I'll key in on is direct guest join. That became a big thing right around, I guess it was August, September timeframe, where everybody was dancing around the idea that, oh, no, don't worry about interoperability, don't worry about app switching. You can now join directly from whatever platform you're talking about to whatever platform you're talking about. It sometimes sucks, but you can do it, and you never have to leave our better experience. Does that sum it up fairly?
Everything except for the better experience thing. I don't think direct guest join was the big hit that they wanted it to be.
Okay, fair enough. And then some of the other announcements that have come out since then have been more in this area of we're now starting to open the kimono just a little bit. We still don't have I've made the joke that 100 years from now we'll have flying cars and we'll have automatic robotic doctors that can cure you of anything that you have, and we'll still be discussing why we can't have interoperability. So I don't think it's ever going to go away. But interestingly now, Poly's G7500 is an integrator codec. It's got open inputs and outputs. You can do a lot of different things in the installation, big room, small room, whatever you like. And that is now Microsoft.
That was actually really significant news. I don't think you should have some music on that one or some drum or something, but that actually brought a lot of technology to the meeting room.
Yeah, it's having one of those devices be Microsoft Teams certified is not just a change for the industry. It's certainly a change for the way Microsoft looks at the industry. It doesn't have to be locked into this, you must have this one experience anymore. And it opens up the ability to put Microsoft Teams rooms in any shape, style, bend, difference, whatever you need in a room. And Poly's the only one that has an integrated codec that does that right now. So we're very proud about that. But that is a major change for the industry.
It's hard to list all the major changes going on right now because there's so many of them, and the pandemic changed the priorities of so many of these companies. And it's just, interoperability was not a priority a few years ago. It's become a bigger priority. There's a lot of head scratching about how intelligent the meeting room should be. And people are thinking it needs to be more intelligent now. The whole concept of
At least the
hoteling
attendees.
and hot desking, which hot desking is like a 1960s telephony technology, kind of went away. Kind of embarrassing to talk about, and all of a sudden it's like the in technology that every vendor is trumpeting right now. And so it is amazing how much has changed over the past few years. It's just extraordinary.
Evan, you and I have had this conversation a number of times where we are now in a world where we've come to understand and agree that there's no reason to have a 1-hour commute and sweat and struggle and pay money and whatever to sit down at a desk in your office and do Zoom calls. We now understand that when we're doing individual work, it's better off done at home. There are the ends of this. I've had this conversation a number of times. There are people who think more about power and control than productivity, and they want their people under their wing because they can look at them and feel powerful. And there are companies that have given up their offices completely because they want to save the money completely. Those are the outliers. But in the middle,
except if you work at Twitter, where
we'll come back to
the
that.
We'll
come back. Let's hold it.
And you will bring your own lunch in a brown paper bag. So
we'll come back to Twitter at the end. But
Twitter aside, your point, both of you are correct that we understand that. Unfortunately, not a lot of the bosses have understood that, and so there's still this extraordinary pressure at some companies, which I guess we're going to talk about here in a moment. But some companies to come back to the office, and it really is kind of strange this discrepancy between what is the purpose of the office. There's a new term I've learned. I love the term. It's proximity bias. We are biased by or influenced because somebody's close to us, as opposed to just a colleague that might be remote. And I never used that term before. I never heard that term, but it's definitely true. And there's a lot we have to learn how to deal with that.
Well, I've also experienced my personal history in the industry. I've experienced working for a lot of multinational, multiple office organizations. It's a distributed workforce anyway. So there really wasn't a bias if my boss is in Atlanta and my colleagues are in London and my colleagues are in California. It's like, no, there is no water cooler that's going to work for us. It was always it was always false. It was always a fallacy. Now, in some companies, they believe in that because they still had a campus. The campus went away, people forget, after 9/11. All of a sudden it dawned on them that, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to keep all of our people in one place. So, we have various campuses. But the bottom line is there's a lot more acceptance today, plus or minus, the stodgier older managers that believe you now need to have a hybrid strategy. If I've spoken to close to 300 customers and end users over the course of this year when we started traveling again, I would say 90% of them agree that their companies are supporting a hybrid future. No two companies agree what that means. And
Dave Michels talks about asynchronous as the sweet spot, particularly messaging. Right, Dave? I mean, you're seeing that, and many vendors are upping their game when it comes to chat, messaging, and asynchronous collaboration.
Yeah, when we talk about hybrid office, there seems to be this automatic assumption we're talking about where you work, but I think an equal part of the conversation needs to be about when you work, and I think that's been a big fundamental change. But the funny thing about this whole hybrid office concept and all this stuff is it's not new, and as you pointed out, David, there's a lot of remote salespeople have been doing this for a very long time. You have salespeople in areas where the customers are and headquarters isn't there, or the office may not be there, and they're trying to connect in. And it's like, so we have all these questions. How do we deal with these remote people? Go ask your sales teams. And what is the hybrid office? Well, ask your sales team, because we still need in-person interactions. It's just different. When you have a remote person like that in remote sales, they come in for QBRs, they come in for training, they come in for other types of, we still have face-to-face interactions, but they don't have an office necessarily. So all this stuff has been invented. It's just now on the front burner again.
It's that, and there is new technology on the software, hardware side that enables that kind of co-working. You saw it at Zoomtopia with Zoom Spots, a kind of virtual co-working space. I talked to the CEO of a B2B metaverse company Kumo Space, they have like thousands of like real customers. It's almost the gamification of virtual co-working. And so, yes, there are new apps. There's new enablers on the hardware and software
Absolutely.
side.
I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. I think that's an important point because the need has been there for a long time. That's my point. But the and the solutions are getting better. And so much of what we saw during the pandemic, the amount of innovation coming from companies like Poly and Microsoft and Google, this was phenomenal because all of a sudden there was much more demand for it. But if you look at the amount of improvements that we've made in video conferencing in the last 3 years, I mean, you could say things like maybe Zoom's, I think Zoom was the first with the background blur or whatever on a video. It looked kind of cute. It was kind of fun. Oh, I'm on the beach, ha, ha, ha. But then the pandemic hit and all of a sudden it became a really important critical feature. Hey, I'm working at home and that's none of your business what's behind me. And we saw like breakout rooms and we saw, and more importantly, everyone learned how to use this stuff and everyone learned how to appreciate it. I think the noise management stuff, the stuff that Poly's been a leader at for a long time, the acoustic fence, whatnot, all of a sudden became like, so important because everyone's got dogs barking, everyone's got the deliveries happening and whatnot. And so the amount of, I would say, both innovation and user acceptance or awareness of around these features has just changed dramatically over the past few years.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm very proud of some of the things we've done. The noise block that you specifically, we've always had a noise block, which was a gate. When there was noise, it was closed. When somebody would talk, it was open, and when the gate's open, everything comes through. What we're doing now with AI and machine learning is it's not a gate, it's a filter. So when somebody's talking and the dog's barking, it will let the voice through but stop the dog. And that's amazing that we have the technology to be able to do that now. We have a great video on our YouTube channel of a gentleman who has to breathe with an assisted respirator, which makes noise, and nobody really cared, of course, but he was always embarrassed by the noise, and now the noise goes away. 90% of it goes away when he's talking, and when we can do that with technology, when we can make it so
you
that
killed the guy?
No, we killed his noise.
Oh, okay, good.
And
There's a couple of ways to solve that problem. I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
That's true. But when we can have a camera be smart enough to do the things we used to have to find one of these remote controls or very complicated touch panels to I can't tell you how many times I would be doing as a consultant to meet with an organization's teams around the country, and I would connect to video and I'd be looking at their knees. Or their feet, and I have to say to them, "So you have this weird touch panel in the room. What does it look like? All right, maybe press that button, raise the can." None of that exists anymore. The whole idea, the nirvana that we're shooting for at Poly, and that we're getting closer to every day, is if you're the doctor and you're going into the conference room, all you need to have in terms of a skill set is being a doctor. Or you're the accountant, be the accountant. You don't need the expertise in my area. The expertise in my area is in the devices. The expertise you bring to the room should just be yours. And we're getting there. We're actually making progress. We still have a way to go. And certainly the combination of HP and Poly is going to help push us there in much faster ways than we would have gotten there on our own. But I'm very pleased with where we're going with a lot of the stuff right now.
Yeah, and it's not just about enterprise communications anymore. I mean, Eric Wan at Zoom had Timbaland on the stage. This is about consumers creating content. It's about prosumers, professional consumers, small business. This is B2C and B2B, and all the big players are recognizing that. I mean, HP Poly has obviously a strong consumer push as well as a B2B push. You have Zoom catering to individual creators, consumers, broadcasters. You have Google with Workspace at their recent conference, Google Cloud Next. We're talking about enabling creators to create content together, at agencies using AI and Workspace and other tools. This is beyond just what we used to think of as conference calls and meetings in the enterprise.
Yeah, well, since you talked about those terms, I got to tell you, we've B2B is business to business, B2C is business consumer. But the next big one, obviously, and this is purely in the contact center, is B2D, which is business to Dave, and that's the personalized communications that are happening. So for B to B, C, D, and I guess E will be coming up soon. But right now, a lot of stuff is happening, a lot of innovation.
Yep. And I would certainly point out that a number of the changes that have taken place have allowed me to be able to tell people what I do for a living. It's never really been something that's easy to talk about, but now they get it.
We still
You
don't
know?
know, David. Don't worry. Don't
Yeah,
we?
and your boss called me and wanted some input on that too, because they couldn't figure
Oh,
it out. But yeah.
yeah, she's cool. No, I drink from the Zoomtopia mug with the Happy the Whale. So no, but when I tell people, you remember that Zoom thing that you use or that you have used, and that's what I do. I do the there you go, talking points. You're almost there with your filter. Um, all right, so I guess if we're chatting, and I guess we brought it up before, and Evan, I kind of paused you, and let's all stay within the realm of decorum, which the gentleman we're going to talk about doesn't have an ounce of. But what is going on in social media nowadays? Dave, you posted a terrific article on LinkedIn. I don't know if you wrote the article, if you just posted it about the idea of email. There was never an email killer. I guess Eric wrote the article, and you posted a conversation about it. And I made the point on there that it's not that email is so terrific; it's that everything else that's come out has not been able to handle intercompany very well. So we're still at that point where there isn't, other than social media, a way to really get everybody all in one thing. I invited both of you to the show on Twitter, on a Twitter chat, because I wouldn't know, should I email you? Should I go on Teams? Should I go on Zoom chat? I don't know which ones you have or anyone has. And then, Twitter, have you ever seen a brand drop in stature and value so quickly for no valid reason that I can
Now,
think
which
of?
brand are you referring to? The brand of Twitter or the brand of Musk?
Let's say both. Well, and let's talk about Eli Lilly. Again, this isn't a financial services show, but my God, their stock took a dive when some fake account was able to spend, $8, get an account, and then, type incorrect things about them because they're, one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older is the quicker you do something, the less accurate and well thought out it is. Sometimes you need to put a tourniquet on something and stop the bleeding. I get that. But most of the time, you have the time to sit back and say, all right, should the tourniquet go on the wound on the leg, or should the tourniquet go on where his heart's bleeding out?
Or on the mouth?
Or on the mat. It's exactly. There's nothing he couldn't have accomplished in all the things he's ranted about wanting to do that he couldn't have done more slowly and gracefully, including let people go with a better taste in their mouth, including make sure that brands are protected. Do you think the platform is going to survive?
All I care about is I got verified, and I only had to spend $8. So, from a purely selfish perspective, woohoo, go Elon! But in all seriousness, yeah, even today he recognized that he's going to hire a quote unquote professional CEO to run Twitter or whatever's left of it. I'm concerned because the stability of the platform is pretty bad. If you fire the engineers who maintain your code base and add capabilities and functions en masse, the platform begins to degrade. So I wonder if we're not going to see stability issues and people just gradually getting fed up. But in the meantime, it's been a huge PR, both debacle and boost, because Twitter users are up. Usage is up. He's getting, massive media attention for his shenanigans and games that he's playing. So who knows in this era of the attention economy, whether this is sort of some diabolical plot that will work in the end. Just keep the service up and running. Don't ruin it for the rest of us. And I'm willing to keep an open mind.
Well, you've already had the people that put forward the majority of advertising on Twitter tell most of their customers to pull back. You've had a couple of very big name brands, Playbill for one, and a few others have said, "I'm sorry, we can't take the chance. We're off. We're not using this platform."
Well, it's even worse than that because they're in huge violation of GDPR and compliance issues with both the FTC and European regulators, and they're going to start getting hundreds of millions of dollars in fines, which they can't pay. So this thing is potentially a train wreck. And again, I just want it to survive as a platform. If Twitter didn't exist, we need to invent something like it that was an open social media platform that people could go to. And the way it's being run now is really kind of dangerous for its long-term viability.
I haven't made the comment that Twitter usage is up, which is really good, and that but we know advertising revenue is down, as you just shared. And so I think it's going to get a lot worse. Evan mentioned the fines that he's opening up exposure to, and I think that advertisers are going to continue to flee the platform while it's so unstable. However, I do believe that Musk will eventually figure it out, and Evan mentioned he's going to hire some stronger management, whatever. But the point is that I'm concerned about is that he still thinks it's a software problem. He put out that memo the other day saying that you have to be a diehard engineer or leave, and it's we're going to double down on software development and we're going to fix Twitter. Twitter's software works pretty well. That's not really the issue. The issue that he has to deal with is how you make it safe for advertisers, how you address this freedom of speech issue, which is really, really complicated. And we all like the idea of what Musk is saying. Hey, let's just have a open, no rules, a free platform. But it doesn't work. You get a call from the FBI. You get a call from the copyright infringement. You get a call regarding
hate speech,
sexual exploitation crimes, and you have to keep on adding all these different rules, and then you get calls from different countries saying we don't like your stance on this. You need to filter this. In our country, we don't allow this stuff, and it just gets really very complicated. And so if he's going to keep on trying to solve this as a software problem, we're in trouble. He's got it, and that's his wheelhouse. And so he's going to have to bring in some new talent and learn some new skills to really get Twitter where it should be.
Yeah, it's a governance issue more than it's a technology issue. There have been buggy issues with the technology, but it's the governance that he doesn't exactly understand is required. Because obviously, as we've seen over the last few weeks, he's said that I want this to be completely free, and then thousands of accounts take advantage of that freedom with loopholes, and as soon as he's the one that's affected by the freedom, he shuts them down against the rules that he announced. So again, you need the quality governance in a situation like that. And I'm a little more skeptical than you guys are. I don't know that it's going to last. I think there may just be a fire sale and somebody else might buy it. I'm sure you've seen the internet memes on those and other platforms of all the companies that people want Elon to buy next because they want to see them fail. So
it was interesting because he kind of poked fun at Bezos when Bezos bought Washington Post, and he got asked in an interview, "Are you going to go into media like Bezos did?" He goes, "No, that's not my thing." And what Bezos did with Washington Post was he said in his interviews, he said, "I don't know publishing, I don't know the newspaper business, but I know the internet, and I'm going to bring that in." And so I think Elon's made the mistake of saying, I know how to do software development. I know how to fix it. I did it at Tesla. I did it at SpaceX. I'm going to double down on software development. But this isn't an established industry. I mean, Twitter's a unique thing, and it's got very unique problems. And it really needs, it's not a software problem, I guess.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Washington Post, because the last few tweets I just looked at Elon's timeline were about news. Twitter is going to open source news. We're going to be a news platform. So yet again, it's a story of ultra rich men buying newspapers. I mean, this is as old as time, right? Going back to the birth of newspapers. So, what's old is new again. Can he turn it into a news platform? Well, Facebook had quite a pushback in many places when they tried to do that, and they started manipulating the news in different ways. It was a complete debacle and disaster. So we shall see.
Yep. All right. Well, look, I appreciate the opinions and the thoughts from two gentlemen who use the platform so effectively and excellently. And
is that on Twitter?
The hope is that it doesn't get ruined because we would all have to be searching for the next new place, and none of them seem to be stepping up at this point to the level of what's needed.
Well, actually, I have been turning up my activity on LinkedIn, and I've been, I've mostly ignored LinkedIn, and I've been impressed. I've been pleased with the engagement and responses, and I don't have as much of a following on LinkedIn as I do on Twitter, but I'm going to continue to build up my LinkedIn activity because it's an insurance policy, I guess.
Well, somebody mentioned to me the other day, and I agree with her, that on LinkedIn, we are communicating extensively and effectively with ourselves. We're talking to other industry people about what's going on in the industry. In Twitter, you have that opportunity to engage somebody that's not necessarily in your space. And that's one of the downsides of talking in an echo chamber. The other downside is I'm always going to feel like LinkedIn, the way it lived for the first year, is far better than anything they've done to it since then. The
Yeah.
emergence of LinkedIn groups and the way we were able to communicate was really effective. Now it really just seems to be a Microsoft marketing tool.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I do see some innovation. If you look at its publishing capabilities, you can publish articles, you can create newsletters. I'm finding really great organic reach with those. You have LinkedIn Audio now, which we're going to try sometime, where Clubhouse like drop-in audio, and LinkedIn Live. You can connect and stream live on LinkedIn now. It works, pretty flawlessly. So there's incremental stuff happening there, but it also doesn't have the bot problem. It doesn't have there are fake personas on LinkedIn, but not bots, not anonymous accounts in the way that you have on Twitter and even Facebook and other accounts. And that real ID, that sort of verification of people, to some degree at least, keeps it more of a clean platform. There's just less nonsense and trolling going on.
Well, a few points there. If you took a look at the people that are sending me invitations, you wouldn't quite think that. There have been plenty of them that have the wallet.
Do you need development services? I have a team in India that can help you with software development.
I am the team in India. And the other thing is this.
I don't know about you guys, but on Twitter, I get a lot of direct messages from beautiful young women looking for companionship. And so, no, it's no different than real life, but
Exactly. And the other point that I wanted to make is this will be on LinkedIn Live. Poly Weekly News is shown on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time across all of Poly's social channels. We use a wonderful platform called Restream. And the Restream platform works on all of our YouTube channels, all of our Twitter channels, our LinkedIn
and
channel,
HP channels, correct?
And on Facebook. Haven't moved it to the HP channels yet. We're starting those discussions, but it is a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving here in the U.S. and we are not going to do the Elon Musk of mergers and takeovers. We are going to do the slow, deliberate, think it out, do the right thing for our customers plan. And that's where we're going to wind up. But gentlemen, I want
to ask you a question about that HP thing, Dave. You kind of brought it to us, but let me ask you. You're on the inside of Poly. Are people walking taller now that they're part of HP, or are they like, oh crap, they're going to ruin everything?
I think there was a tiny bit of attrition between the time that it was announced and between the time that everything happened right now. And anytime you join a new organization, there's a lot of drinking from the fire hose, and that scares a lot of people. Here are the 500 apps you need to learn today and the 6 different places you need to do passwords. For the most part, though, I would say in the 80-90% time, people are very proud. The people that have been legacy HP have been very gracious. They understand why we joined. If you were both at Zoomtopia, I'm sorry again I missed it because of an illness, but you saw Enrique Lores, the CEO, on with Eric Wan on the stage talking about its time. It was the right move at the right time to grow both organizations.
More importantly, I was in your booth and I met Andy Rhodes. I guess he's the guy from HP that kind of put the deal together.
He's the general manager of the team that's dealing with us, the peripherals and the. Everybody sees this.
Fan of everything I've written and a great follower. So I appreciate that, Andy. Thank you very much for saying those kind words.
That is coaching effectively. But the point is that everybody from both sides sees this as growth. The Poly people understand that we now have the ability to manage supply chains and purchasing in a way that we never did before. The HP people that have a terrific portfolio of personal devices now have systems that cover rooms. I think there's still going to be months of intricate integration. I think we're still supporting all the products that the teams had out right now, we're integrated on an operational basis. But what's the first Poly HP product that's going to come out? I can't tell you that answer yet. I wouldn't be able to break it.
Well, that's not true. It's already come out. You announced at Zoomtopia a new room kit with an HP PC in it. So
correct.
That was the low hanging fruit. But I imagine you're referring to some upper hanging fruit that.
Well, I'm referring to an individual device as opposed to a kit. It's easy to assemble assemble kit with parts from both. But I don't know what the first new doohickey is going to be. I've looked at the roadmap. I've looked at both roadmaps. So the question is, how will the roadmaps merge? I think I'm going to be at CES. HP is going to have a pretty decent presence in terms of their new line at
I met
CES.
you at CES like 10
You
years
did
ago.
meet me at CES 10 years ago. Are you
Yeah,
going to be there this year, Dave?
No, that's a silly show. But everyone I've met there is crazy. But I noticed in your booth at Zoomtopia, it had both HP and Poly logos, and I was going to recommend you can save some space and just do HPP.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll be kept for advisement. Yes, we'll be.
If people haven't heard that are watching the show, or if you guys haven't heard, at this point the announcement is that we're going to maintain the three brands. The Poly brand is going to be maintained, the HP brand is going to be maintained, and the HyperX brand is going to be maintained for gaming. And the future and what it looks like, and whether there will be a new HPP logo or PPH or who knows whatever is going to happen going forward. Those decisions haven't been made yet. But again,
but the Plantronics brand is not going to stay.
I don't know that decision has been made yet either.
HPPP.
Dave just needs to know what T-shirts he can keep and what she has to give away.
I've on my own dime, without going through the company, purchased an HP polo, which I wear sometimes. I'll put it on next week, and I'm still waiting for the Poly HP shirt that I've been promised. But I'm a remote worker, so I get them last. But well, we don't know, and again, I think it's an important point to make, especially after our long conversation about what's going on over Twitter, that you can see that the fast response is not always the right response. And we have a ton of excellent customers and partners across the globe, on a very intricate basis, and we're not going to make any fast, wrong decisions. We're going to do the right thing by our customers and our partners. You're going to do the wrong decisions
nice and slowly. That's the way it should be done.
You were setting yourself up for that, Dave. But
you know what? I thought I was amongst friends, but what can I say?
Before we go, I did have a question really top of mind for Dave Michels. Have you found a buyer for the phone booth? Now, for those who aren't aware, Dave Michels has a working phone booth, and in his move from Colorado to New Jersey, he's having trouble selling the phone booth.
I really thought it would be an easy thing to sell. It's all intact.
Well, how could you not believe it would be easy to sell a phone booth?
It even says Bell System, which is the more rare ones. It's Bell System. It's an original Superman style booth from the 70s. It lights up at night. It's gorgeous. Everyone loves it when they come over to my house. Everyone takes a selfie in it, and I have it working. So I had to put a PBX in because people always want to call the house, and I couldn't do that with just a shared phone line. So I had to actually put a PBX in, so when they dialed the house, it would ring in the house. But it has not been. It is not easy.
What's the current price? Maybe we need to start an auction.
No, I have the relatives. I have the relatives of Judge Green on the phone, the Westchester judge. I want to find out if they're interested in it. Actually, the AT&T people still to this day have a group of elder statesmen of the company. I totally forget the name off the top of my head right now, and I'm ashamed. But you should reach out to them because I'm sure they would be interested in doing it.
I moved here to New Jersey, not far from you, David, and I'm very close to Morristown, historical. Theodore Vail, the famous CEO of AT&T in the 1920s that created regulation. It's right here. This is where the phone booth belongs, but I can't move it here. And this development has a lot of strict rules. They don't, for some reason, they've excluded phone booths. But I just think this is a valuable piece of history that deserves a good home, and it has not found a good home yet. So
we'll keep looking. Hopefully, a listener or viewer will watch this and step up to the plate to preserve the phone.
Yeah, I think it might be the AT&T Pioneers. I'll have to look at with the number up because I know there's a group. I got my first internship in technology in 1978 at the famous 195 Broadway in New York City, which was the home of AT&T for years. We had Western Electric down the block. It was when it was the Bell system. I learned what is the Bell system. I had a lot of great experiences there. And people that I worked with back in 1978 are still friends of mine today, and I still stay in touch with them and do things with them. We go to baseball games sometimes. It's a great group. It was a great organization. It should never have been broken up at the time because essentially it's all back together again as a monopoly in these weird times. I'll I'll make some calls and see who's interested in a phone
I
booth.
appreciate that. I tell you, in Denver, I bought my phone booth from at the time it was called CenturyLink. No, I think it was Quest at the time. But
Bell Mountain.
but their main office in downtown Denver has two phone booths not working outside, and people love them. And people, whenever someone's seen my phone booth, they go, "Oh, I've seen the ones downtown Denver." But I finally went to the ones in downtown Denver. They're painted brown. They don't have a phone in them. I mean, those don't even count. Mine is blue and it's got a phone in it. It's beautiful.
And it takes dimes or quarters or nickels, or how do you pay?
It takes them, but it doesn't require them. Yes.
Okay.
And Dave, you're not going to be at CES. Evan, you're going to be at CES this year with me.
I think I am. Yeah.
If you go to the Mirage, which at least, at that point it will just stop being an MGM property. But if you go right into the front of the Mirage, they have a British phone booth right in the front because of the Beatles Love Conference.
Yes,
everybody
I remember that.
goes into that red phone booth to take pictures.
Saying at Trump Tower, this year, but yeah, definitely maybe next year.
Not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on the show. It's very entertaining and very educational as well. Dave, if somebody would like to find out more about you or get in touch with you, what do you suggest they do?
Talkingpoints.com with a Z on the end. That's the best way.
If you turn around, do you have a Z? You don't have a Z on the end. Anyway, never mind. Okay, talkingpoints.com. You got it, and that's what we will do. Mr. Kirstal, how would somebody find you? How does somebody
Evan
work to not be found
on Twitter? Yes, all the places. But if Twitter's still working, go there, look me up, follow me, and DM me, and let's chat.
And if Twitter's not working, the next best place is
Mastodon, IP address 1.22.336.87.
Oh boy! Well, I do have a Mastodon account. I'm not doing very much with it, but I'm there just in case.
You have to log into my server, and yes, enter my. Yeah, never mind. Just go to Twitter.
Okay, cool. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's going to be it for this week's Poly Weekly News. We will see you next week, and until then, for all of my colleagues at Poly and HP, thanks for watching. We'll see you then.